So this lecture will be about transportation systems and organization, which is taken from the second chapter of your textbook. And in this chapter, we will learn about what are the things which are included in the transportation sector. Okay, so last time we were looking at it from the technical side, who are the people involved in the transportation sector, or what type of specializations are involved in the transportation sector and what is its importance. Today we will discuss or we'll start the discussion of the system itself. So let us begin. Any transportation system is an aggregation, or in other words, a combination of vehicles, guideways, terminal facilities, and control systems. There's another element as well, but that is outside the system, but it affects the system. So we will not discuss it here, we will discuss it later on. For the time being, just consider that there are 4 elements of a transportation system, and transportation system works with a combination of these 4 elements. What are these 4 elements? Vehicles, guideways, terminal facilities, and control systems. Now, I told you last time in chapter 1 as well, transportation systems can be of different types. You can have rail, airplane, waterways, and highways, and so on. So for each system, the definition of these components will change according to the context. For example, if you are talking about highways, then in highways, vehicles are car, buses, trucks, and so on. Guideways are highways and streets. Terminal facilities are the facilities on which you stop your vehicles. So these are the parking spaces. And control systems are those systems which are used to control the movement of the vehicles. So for highways, we use pavement markings, road signs, signals, roundabouts to control the movement of the vehicles. So these become the control systems for the highways. If we are talking about railways, then for railways, vehicles are trains, guideways are the tracks, railway tracks, terminal facilities are railway stations, and control systems are whatever guidance system they are using. So they may be radio systems, they may be automatic braking system. Okay, nowadays we have electric vehicles which have their own guidance systems, and they are running in an automated manner. So this whole system on which they work is called as control systems. Okay, in some countries, including Pakistan, they are run manually. So you have the drivers which are sitting in the engine, and you have on each station you have a guard and so on. So they have their own signal system as well. They have signal system, they have gates. So all these things become part of control system. Then if you talk about airplanes and ships, then vehicles are obviously airplanes and ships. Guideways will be their defined routes in air and in water. Okay, in air and on water, they have their defined routes. So many of you must have traveled on airplanes. So if you go to a specific destination, a number of times you will see that the route that the airplane is taking is always the same. So it will always pass through the same countries, or it will always pass above the same countries. Okay, why? Obviously, it's not marked anywhere, but they have their own guidance systems, they have their own maps, and they work according to their own routes. So the guideways are there for ships and airplanes as well, but they are not physical, they are not seen. Okay, they are on the map. Terminal facilities will be airports and ports, and control systems will be, they have their own watchtowers and control towers and radio systems, and so they even on airports you would see the markings, and even on ports you would see the markings are there, the signs are there. So they are part of the control systems. So these transportation systems are used to carry freight and passengers. Freight means goods and materials. Now all these systems work according to their established procedures. They have their laws and regulations, and they have their schedules as well. Obviously, for train, trucks, not trucks, buses and airplanes and ships, they have their schedule, what time they will leave, what time they will arrive, and they follow certain procedures. Okay, how you are supposed to take off and land and enter the port and so on and so forth. And these procedures will change according to where they are moving. Okay, on land, in the air, or on water. And for highways, again, you have traffic regulations, right? speed limit, which lane you should be, which turn is yours, which one would have right of way. So they have their own procedures and schedules, and they work according to that for an orderly movement. Otherwise, there will be lots of accidents. Okay, so you are let's say you are a traveler, or you are a trader. You want to send something. Trader means people who are buying and selling. So you want to send something somewhere, or you want to go some place. So you have multiple options available to you. Okay, most of the times you will have multiple options. So which option you select? What are your concerns? On which basis you select your mode of transport? Okay, so for you want to go to Umrah. Okay, so you can go by bus, you can go by car, you can go by plane. Okay, inshallah soon they may have air railway service as well, and so on. So there are different modes available to you. So what things you consider when you are deciding about and when you are selecting the mode of transportation? So the four things which you see here are the main considerations. Obviously, there can be others as well. These are not the only ones, but these are the most important ones. Cost, obviously, how much cost you have to bear. Okay, so if you are going by car, then the fuel cost, parking fee, okay, wear and tear of your vehicle, and so on. Then if you are going by train, then fare of the train. Going to the train station, you may take taxi to go to the train station. So all these costs are included. Travel time, again same thing. Travel time means from end to end, from your first step to your last step. Okay, so if you take for example bus, okay, so travel time will not only mean the travel time of the bus, it will also include the time which you spend waiting on the bus stop, the time which you spend walking to the bus stop, and so on and so forth. Okay, so travel time from end to end. Okay, then convenience. Okay, convenience is very important. How easily I can get to the station. Okay, and how easily I can get the train. Okay, is the station close to my house? Is the bus stop close to my house? Okay, how is the environment? How are the facilities? Okay, so convenience is all these things. And then flexibility. Flexibility in terms of time and route. Okay, so I want to go from A to B, but to go from A to B, there is no direct route. I have to change 2 or 3 buses. Okay, so flexibility is less. Okay, and similarly, the bus will only operate in this much time. So if I'm going, let's say after 10 o'clock, I don't have any bus. So flexibility is again less. So you consider these things when you are selecting your travel mode as a passenger or for your freight. Now, some guidelines are given for passenger freight transport. For example, if you're doing passenger travel, then automobile is considered more reliable, comfortable, flexible, and ubiquitous. Reliable in most of the cases, obviously in most of the cases, because it's in your control. You know the roads, or you know your route, you know your travel time, so it's reliable. Okay. Comfortable, obviously you are in your car, you can turn on the AC, you can turn on the music. Okay, sometimes we take it too far, we start looking at the mobile as well, which is wrong. Okay, but it's more comfortable than a bus or any other mode of transport. It's flexible, obviously it's flexible. Flexibility is obvious. Okay, and it's ubiquitous. Ubiquitous means that it's everywhere. Okay, so if you want to go from one place to another place, for example, you want to go from here to Saudi Arabia, so you can take the same car with you, no problem. Okay, anywhere if you don't find the same car, you can park your car somewhere and then you can rent a car in Saudi Arabia and go forward. Okay, I came from Pakistan here, or let me give an example of my friend. He came from Abu Dhabi, so he already has a license. He can just go to the license office and he can get a Bahraini license and he can start driving a car. Even if he doesn't buy it, he can take a rented car and move on. Okay, so they are everywhere. I went to Europe, I did the same thing. Okay, the driving remains the same. The driving, the type of car remains the same. It doesn't change. Okay. Airplane may be preferred for longer distances. Obviously, if you are covering thousands of kilometers, then you will not like to drive or take any other mode. Okay. So airplane can help you cover larger distances in less time. So if you want to do that, then you will prefer airplane. But airplane has to be supplemented by auto, because you need to get to the airport, and at your destination you need to go from the airport to your destination. Okay, and airports are usually out of the populated areas. Okay, not usually, always out of the populated area. You cannot have airplanes, you know, landing in populated areas. Okay, in Karachi it is very close to the populated area, and this year we had an incident where the plane crashed close to a residential area near the airport. Okay, so that's why airport are always out of the residential or any populated areas. So that's why you need to take automobile at the end. Intercity bus or rail, like long distance bus or rail. Intercity means that you are covering like hundreds of kilometers. Okay, so you can use bus or rail for intercity travel as well. Okay, so you will cover longer distances. Obviously, you cannot drive, but it will take you more time. It will take more time from you, but it will be cheaper. It will be cheaper. So you see, the characteristics of each mode are discussed in on the basis of these four things. So automobile, you know, less travel time, more convenience, more flexibility, maybe more cost. Airplane, more cost, less travel time, more convenience, less flexibility, and so on and so forth. Okay. And one more thing, or I will say it in the end. Let us discuss freight transport. So for freight transport, trucks are more common, or they are essential part of freight transport because they are flexible and they provide door-to-door service. Flexibility, obviously you hire a truck, then it is your decision at what time and through what route you want to send the truck. Okay, so truck will go how and wherever you want, so it is flexible. Obviously you hire it, and it provides door-to-door service. For a ship or airplane or railway, it cannot provide you door-to-door service because you cannot have airport and stations near your door. Okay, so in the end, maybe something comes from Pakistan to Bahrain on a ship or an airplane, but from the factory to the port, it has to use the truck, and from the port to your doorstep in Bahrain, it has to use the truck. Okay, so the last leg, the last part of your freight transport, freight movement is always a truck. Okay, but trucks carry small quantities. Obviously, their capacity is less. Ships carry more quantities, and ships can carry large products as well, like cars. Okay, so any large product you have, or you have product, or you have freight which is in large quantity, very huge quantity, like oil, then you use ships. But obviously, ships are very slow. Okay, so they used to, there was a time when people used to come from Pakistan to for Umrah and Hajj on ships, and they used to take months. Okay, so by the time they went back, everybody forgot about them. But anyways, now they are, even the ships are faster. Then rails again can accommodate large quantities of materials, and in some countries they are saying they prefer using rail over trucks or other modes. Okay, so they can carry large quantities, but they cannot carry like car or something like that. One car will cover the whole compartment of the train. Okay, so you can transfer a large quantity of products in train as well, but again they need to be supplemented by trucks, because again you will not have train station directly in your warehouse, directly in your storeroom. Okay, so you need to get the quantities from the railway station to your storeroom, and even at the start as well. Now you can see in all these things, what is the most common mode of passenger travel? Automobile. What is the most common and flexible mode of freight transport? Trucks. Okay, and for airplane you need automobile as well. For rails you need trucks as well. So all these are, so the conclusion is what? Highways provide you the most important modes of passenger and freight movement. Okay, whether it's automobile or bus or truck, they are providing the most important, the most common mode of passenger and freight transport. That's why we are studying highway engineering, and we will also study traffic engineering as well. Okay, that's why, because they are important, more important than any other mode of transport. That's why we don't have compulsory courses for airport engineering and marine engineering. If any one of you has a question, they need to speak up because I cannot see the messages. My screen is just showing me the slides. Okay. Now let us look at an example of selection of mode. So there's a traveler who wants to go from downtown area of city A to downtown area of city B for a meeting. So downtown means congested area, commercial area, the area which has traffic problems and parking problems and so on. These two areas are 400 miles apart from each other, and he has three options to travel. Okay, now you see 400 miles is just the type of distance in which you can consider car as well as a airplane as well as a rail as well as a train. Okay, because if it was too short, you will not consider air. If it was too long, you will not consider air or rail. Okay, so they have just given us the optimum type of distance where all three modes are applicable. Okay, so if you travel by air, you need to go to the airport in your car. You will park your car there. You will have some parking fee. You need to arrive at the airport early, so there will be waiting time. You will get the airplane, go to your destination. Then again, there will be some waiting time to get the luggage. Then you will take a taxi, and then the taxi will take you to your final destination. So this whole process will take you 5 hours, and the whole process will cost you $250, including fuel, parking, taxi, airline fare, and everything. Okay. Then you can travel by auto as well. So auto trip, obviously you will get into the car and you will drive, but you are going from one congested area to another congested area. So during your way, you will get stuck in traffic at some locations. You will lose some extra time, and at the final destination, you may have some parking problems. So you may have to search for parking, and then you may have to park away from your final location. So there may be some walking as well. Okay, so this whole process will take you 8 hours and will cost you $200, including fuel and parking fee and so on. Okay, so I'm just reading the things. Okay, these things are written here. All the things are written here. The time and cost is written here. The last paragraph, second to last paragraph. If you take the rail, you will take a taxi to the railway station because there is no parking there. You will take the rail. It will get you directly to your destination, and it is close to your location. So you don't take a taxi when you get off the rail. So you get off the rail and you walk to your destination. Okay, so this whole process will take 12 hours and $150. So if you consider only cost, then rail is the cheapest, $150 cost. If you consider only travel time, then air is the fastest, only 5 hours. Okay, but you consider both things. In most of the cases, you will consider both things. So this is what they are asking: which mode you will select if you consider travel time and cost both. Okay, now how can I combine? Because these are two different things. The mode which is cheapest is the slowest. So how can I combine? So for combining travel time and cost, I need to know the value of the time. 1 hour means how much money to me. Okay, so for example, there are methods to calculate value of time. You go to Google, you search, you will find papers on finding out value of time, and one of the papers is written by me, so you can search. Okay, with my name as well, and this is for the Causeway, King Fahd Causeway, so you will find it more relevant. But anyways, for example, you are an employee in some company, and your company pays you 1000 BD for 40 hours of work. For example, 40 hours is very less. Let's say 200 hours. Okay, 200 hours, you work 40 hours per week, 200 hours in a month, and it pays you 1000 BD. Okay, so 1000 BD means what? 1 hour equals to how much for you? So 1000 upon 200 will give you how much? 5, I think. 5 BD per hour, something like this. Okay, so 5 BD or 50 BD. 50 into, yeah, I think 50 BD. So 50 BD per hour. So this is your value of time. Okay, this is one way of finding out value of time. Another way of finding out value of time is like I said, there are different methods. Let me give you a very rough example, and this is not the standard method, but just to increase your understanding. For example, you are waiting at the bus stop, okay, and a taxi driver, taxi drivers come at the bus stops and sometimes they try to grab you, okay, not physically, like they try to entice you. So he comes to you, he says, where you want to go? You tell him, I want to go to this place, and I'm waiting for the bus. So he says the bus will come in half an hour. It will take you 1 hour to get to that place, okay, and it will take you it will take 1 BD from you. Why don't you come in my taxi? And I will take you to your destination in half an hour. So bus was taking you in 1 hour and a half, and this guy is saying, I will take you in half an hour, and you pay me 2 BD. Okay. So if you say yes, that means what? You are willing to pay 1 BD extra to save 1 hour of your travel, right? So this person who is making this trip has also a value of time like this, $25 for each hour of travel. So he is willing to pay $25 for each hour of his travel saved. So if another guy comes to this individual and he says, come with me, I will get you to your destination in 4 hours, give me $25 extra, whatever you were giving the other companies and whatever you were giving for the other modes. And if this guy would say yes, okay. So this is the maximum he can pay for saving 1 hour of his travel time, okay. So which mode he should select on the basis of travel time and cost after combining these two items. So let us look at it. He can select air. So $250 is a direct cost which is given, okay, airfare, parking fee, taxi fare, and so on. So everything is the cost in terms of money is $250, and it will take 5 hours from him. The total air travel is 5 hours, okay, and each hour is how much for him? $25. So the value of his time for 5 hours is 25 into 5. So the total cost of air travel is $375. $375. Okay, 250 plus 25 into 5. Similarly for auto, 200 is direct cost and 25 into 8 is the cost of his time. So $400, and rail 150 plus 25 into 12, $450. 12 hours and $25 per hour, and 150 is the direct cost. Now, if you combine these two factors and you take into account his value of time, then you see the cheapest mode is $375 for air. Okay, if this guy was some other individual whose value of time was less, instead of 25, let's say it was $10 per hour, then you may have selected rail or auto. Okay, since his value of time was higher, $25 is very high. So just by saving 3 hours by air travel, you see auto is 8 and air is 5. So just 3 hours make him go by air. The saving of 3 hours will make him go by air because he is saving 3 hours in the travel. So that is that makes the air mode cheaper. Okay. So this was the first part of the question. So he should go by air mode if he's only traveling, if he's only considering travel time and cost. Other factors, what other factors he should consider? He should consider these. Safety is always there. Safety is always there. For everybody, safety is a prime concern. Okay, so safety is there. So when he would consider safety, if he may go by rail to avoid accidents by air and auto. Why? Because automobile accidents are very common, and air accidents are very deadly. Once you have an air crash, you almost have zero chance of survival. So he may go by rail, although it is taking more time, just for the consideration of safety. Reliability, how confident you are that you will get to your destination on time, that is reliability. So like I said in the question, he's going for a meeting, so he cannot be late. So he may take auto because there is fog or because there is rain. So in rain or fog or snow, the flights are often delayed, and same thing can happen with the rail as well. So he may go by auto in that case, okay, to increase the reliability of his trip. Or since he is going from a congested area to another congested area, so he is not sure, maybe he will get stuck in traffic for how long, so he may choose railway or he may choose air. Okay. Then convenience. Okay, are these services offered at convenient times? For example, there are two trains. Okay, one of them leaves early in the morning, another one leaves late at night, so he cannot take train because the timings are not convenient for him. He will be awake all the night, and then he cannot be productive in his meeting. Okay, same thing, let's say there's only one flight. Okay, so if he takes that flight, either he will have to go one day earlier or he will miss the meeting. So again, air travel may not be the case. Okay, so convenience in terms of timing. These are the other factors he may consider. Again, if you think more about it, if you know more about this traveler, you can think of other factors as well. Okay. Now let us discuss interaction of supply and demand. What do we mean by demand? Demand of transportation system is the number of people using the system. Number of people using the system is its demand, and supply is capacity of the system. Okay, for example, highway. So how many vehicles can be on the highway? This is the supply. If you are taking train, so how many people can travel to the train? This is the supply of the train system. Okay. Now for demand and cost, the relationship is very simple. Cost is less, demand is more. Okay, I think you understand it, and you apply it to transportation, you apply it to buying and selling computers or phones or whatever industry you apply it. Cost is less, demand is more. Okay, something which is cheaper is more in demand. Okay, same thing with the transportation system as well. Okay, so let me give you an example. When we were in Saudi Arabia as a student, so we didn't have much savings, so we used to wait for the airlines to give offers. Offers used to come, in the winter. Okay, after the Hajj season, for the airlines, Saudi Airlines, Nas Airline. So we used to wait for that. Okay, so as soon as the offer came and we bought the ticket and we went for Umrah or whatever. So we were increasing the demand, right? And why we were increasing the demand? Because the cost was less. So the demand and cost line is this. You decrease cost, the demand increases. See, y-axis decrease, x-axis increase. Okay, for supply, it's the other way around. If you want to increase the capacity of the system, it will cost you more, obviously. What will cost you more? One highway or two highway? Two highway. What will have more capacity? One highway or two highway? Two highway. Okay. So for example, I've given the example here. We have a causeway between Saudi Arabia and Bahrain. Okay. So the causeway before COVID, it was always full. Okay. There was too much congestion. So they were thinking about building a causeway, another causeway. Then God sent the COVID to help their, to save their money. Everything has good and bad aspects. Anyways, so at that time, if they had built another causeway, so they will increase the supply. So if the causeway handles 4,000 vehicles per hour, the second causeway will increase the supply or the capacity to 8,000 vehicles per hour. Okay, but what about the cost to the government? Obviously, you have construction cost of the new causeway, you have maintenance cost of the new causeway. So the cost increase. Which cost? The cost to the government. The cost for maintaining the supply. This is not the cost to the user. This is not the cost to the traveler. Okay. So in order to increase the supply of the system, in order to increase the capacity of the system, you have to increase your cost as well. The cost to the government, the cost to the administrator will increase. Okay. So this is, you see the line. Okay. Capacity increases, cost increases. Okay. This is the cost of construction and maintenance and so on. Now, so the government, when they are charging the user, they want to facilitate them, so they want to charge them less, so more users can travel. But if in order to accommodate more users, they have to increase their own cost. So this is the cost to the user. You decrease it, you have more people, and this is the cost to the government, or this is the cost to the system, and you increase more user, your cost will increase. Okay, so government try to reduce it. At the same time, they are trying to increase the transport. They are trying to reduce this cost. But as they increase the demand, their own cost is increasing. Okay, so they cannot make this cost, the cost to the user, zero. They have to charge them something. Okay, so they need to reach at a balance point. So if I plot this line over here on this graph, okay, so you see the supply line is here, the demand line is in this manner, and they will intersect at some point. The point at which they will intersect gives you the optimum cost of supply and optimum cost of demand. So this is how much you should charge to the user, and this is how much the cost will be to the government. So you can see they are the same. So this is the optimum cost, the balance point, where the cost to the user is the same as the cost to the government. So whatever you are taking from the user, you are investing on the system. No profit, no loss, and this is what we want. Okay, this is what we want. So we need to balance the supply and demand. Okay, that cost of supply and the cost of demand. Okay, let us look at another example. We have a toll bridge which carries 5,000 vehicles per day. Okay, so there's a bridge on which there's a toll plaza or toll booth. And what is a toll booth? It's a booth or check post which collects the tax from the drivers as they are driving on the bridge. Okay, so King Fahd Causeway is a toll bridge. You go to the causeway, you have to pay some tax. Okay, so toll is like a tax. So that tax is 150 cents or $1.50. Okay, right now. So they did some studies and they found that if they increase the toll by 25 cents, for every 25 cents increase in the toll, the number of vehicles will decrease by 500. Again, I'm referring to this now. So every time you increase the cost by 25, this x-axis will reduce by 500. Okay, so the cost and demand relationship. Okay, you increase the cost by 25 cents, demand decreases by 500 vehicles. Okay, we were saying it in the reverse here. You decrease the cost, demand increases. So it's the same thing but in reverse. Okay, so you increase the tax and 500 people will travel less on the or 500 people will be on the bridge. Okay, and you keep on increasing 25 cents, 25 cents, 25 cents, and you are thinking since we are collecting more toll, so our revenue should increase, right? But the number of drivers on the bridge are decreasing. Okay, so you are increasing the pay per driver, but the number of drivers are decreasing. So you may eventually be having less revenue, less earning from the bridge. Okay, so in this question they are asking us if this is the rate of decrease of the vehicles. For every 25 cents you have 500 vehicles less, then what revenue, or sorry, what toll should be charged from the user's final value so that the revenue is maximum. Okay, you can see the dilemma here. 25 cents increase, 500 vehicles down. So you are trying to increase one thing, but the other thing is decreasing, and both these things are important for your revenue. Okay, so you cannot as I say, you cannot keep on increasing the toll and think that okay, fine, my revenue will be increasing. No, number of vehicles are decreasing, so your revenue may be eventually decreasing. Okay, so how much revenue should be increased so that the revenue or earning is maximum, and with the new toll, how much additional revenue they will receive. So they are receiving something right now. So when they increase the toll to whatever value, what will be the difference between today's revenue and that revenue which you will generate extra? Okay, so in this question we need to develop some equations. If you, in case you have questions, you can ask me. Okay, again I cannot see your messages, so you need to speak up. Okay, if you understand the question, then the answer will be very quick. Okay, first of all I will develop some equations. Let's say the increase in toll, what they are asking from me is X. So they want to increase the toll by X amount. We don't know X, so we want to find out X. Okay. V, what is the relationship between V and X? V currently is 5,000. and V will reduce by a rate of 500 upon 25. 500 vehicles reduce per 25 cents increase in toll. So 500 upon 25 multiplied by X. So if I increase the toll by X, number of vehicles will reduce by this amount. So 500 upon 25, a rate of decrease in number of vehicles multiplied by X, which is the number of cents by which you will increase the toll. Okay, so for every cent, the number of vehicles will reduce by 500 upon 25. So if I increase the toll by X, how many vehicles will I reduce? Okay, so that will give me the final volume. So this is current volume and this is the reduction in volume by increasing the toll by X. Toll will be 150, which is the current toll, plus X, which is the additional addition you will recommend. Revenue will be number of vehicles into tax per vehicle, toll per vehicle. So how much toll I am taking per vehicle, T, and how many are number of vehicles, V. So revenue or earning will be V into T. So I have an equation for V and I have an equation for T. You multiply these two equations, you will get this. See, and you simplify it. So 750,000 as it is, minus 3,000 plus 5,000, so plus 2,000x, minus 20x square, so minus 20x square. Okay, so this is the equation for revenue. Okay, now you see this is the equation between R and X, and this equation is second degree parabolic equation. So if you sketch the curve of this equation, it will be something like this. See, X on the x-axis, R on the y-axis, and the shape of the curve will be like this. Okay, shape of the curve will be like this. For any parabolic curve, I want to find out maximum R, right? For any parabolic curve, the maximum point occurs when the slope is 0. See, slope is 0. So the maximum point will only occur when the slope is 0. Okay, so I need to find out the slope and put it equal to 0 to find out the value of X. Okay, how to find out the slope of this curve? You have the equation of the curve, take the derivative. So when you take the derivative of this equation, it will give you this. Okay, so 750,000 gone. 200 into X will become 2,000. Sorry, 2,000 into X will become 2,000. Minus 20 into X square will become 2 into 20X. So 2 into 20 is 40X. And this is the slope, and at maximum, slope should be equal to 0. So slope is equal to 0. So X equals to 50 cents. Okay, so X is 50 cents. So toll will be 150 plus X, 200. So 200 cents means $2. Okay, so $2. Additional revenue. How much will be the additional revenue? New revenue minus the old one. New revenue minus the old one. How much was the old one? 5,000 vehicles into 150 cent toll per vehicle. So you see the old 5,000 into 150. 150 or $1.5. Okay, if you want to calculate everything in dollar, then this is one. And the new one is this one. So you have the equation for V here. Instead of X, please put 50. Okay, so now we know the value of X. So you put 50. Put 50 here, and then you multiply with the new toll. How much is new toll? 150 plus X. So X is 50. So toll will become $2. Okay. So the old volume is 5,000. Old revenue $1.5. Total revenue, old toll was $1.5. Total revenue in present situation $7,500. New volume $4,000 vehicles. So you see, as they were saying, for every $25 extra, 500 vehicles will reduce. So initial was 5,000. You increase 25 cents, the volume becomes 4,500. You increase 25 cents more because X is 50, right? So increase 25 cents twice. So how many vehicles will reduce? 1,000 vehicles. So the new volume is, instead of 5,000, it is 4,000 because you increase the toll by 50 cents into the new toll, which is $2. So the new revenue is 8,000. Now old revenue is 7,500. So you are having extra $500 per day. You will earn extra $500 per day by increasing the revenue to 50 cents. Now what will happen if you increase more than 50 cents? See, again, come to the curve. You are here. X is 50, R is maximum. if you go more than 50, what will happen? You will be here, right? And here is what? Revenue is maximum or less? Less. Okay, so this is the only point where you can have maximum revenue. If you go more, the revenue will be less. If you go less, the revenue will be less. So this is your optimum point, balance between demand and supply. Okay, so now I will stop here, and if you have questions. Yeah, I just realized that. I will just upload it. Don't worry, I'll upload the slide. Okay, anything else? Any other question? You can speak up if you want. I just upload the slide. You see, online thing is, good in many aspects. Now I can just upload the slide as I'm talking with you. Okay, actually the slides were there, in the Teams, the slides were there, but I made some changes. Okay, so slides were there, they were not updated, but the slides were there, but now they are updated. Okay, slides were there. If you go to Teams, you will find all the slides. Okay, so the slides are there, but they are from the previous semester. There are not many changes, but they are from previous semester. Okay, so I will take the attendance now. I am taking attendance for section 2 for the start. If they're from section 1, they need to wait. Yes. Any question?
I want to ask you about the lecture, about the slide today.
Yeah, I told you. I have just uploaded the slides on Teams. Okay. For any other slide, for any other chapter, the slides are already there. Okay, from the previous semester, the slides are already there. If you want to print them, if you want to read them, no problem. They are almost the same as what we are doing. Okay, there's not much change. In the Teams, they are already there. I need to upload it on the Blackboard. Okay.
Victor, not about this.
Okay.
I want to ask you about the lecture today.
Okay.
The curve, the R curve.
Yeah.
This I want to ask you about it. Can you explain it more? Like.
No, the R curve is coming from this equation. Okay, so we have. Did you get how we developed this equation? The R equation. R equals to 750,000 plus 2000x minus 20x squared. Did you get it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So you see this equation is parabolic. Second degree equation, parabolic equation. Okay. Now R is what we are calculating and X is in the equation. So whatever is in the equation comes on the X axis. Whatever you are calculating, whatever is on the left hand side comes on the Y axis. Okay. And if it's a second degree equation, then the curve between them will be a parabolic curve. So I made a parabolic curve here. Okay, it's just a sketch. It's just a sketch to explain you why I'm taking derivative and why I'm putting it equal to 0. So it's just a sketch. You don't have to draw it. Okay. And how did I make the sketch? I just made a parabolic curve between R and X. Okay, just to show you that the maximum point occurs when the slope is equal to 0. Okay, so it's just a sketch. And how do I know the shape of the curve? Because the equation is second degree. For every second degree equation, the curve is always like this. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? So I will start the attendance from section 2, and if anybody is from section 1, they need. Okay. Mohammed Abdullah.
Present.
Okay. Yeah, you can speak up. It's better. Manal Abdullah. Noor Ahmad. Okay. Zahra Ahmad. Okay. Zainab Ahmad. Zainab Ahmad. Okay. Hala Abdul Karim. Hala Abdul Karim. Okay. Ali Hussain. Ali
Yes.
Hussain Ali. Okay.
Yes.
Mahmoud Ali. Mahmoud Ali. Mahmoud Ali. Shauki Ali. Shauki Ali.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Huda Hassan. You were the one who asked question. Okay. Wala Hassan. Wala Hassan. Wala Hassan. Okay. Muzun Humud. Muzun Humud. Okay. Wasan Husni. Wasan Husni. Wasan Husni. Balqis Isa. Balqis Isa. Okay.
نعم.
Sara Khamis. Sara Khamis. Okay. Fatma Madan. Fatma Madan. Okay. Mahdi. Mahdi. Okay.
Here.
Okay. Mahmoud.
Yes.
Okay. Mala Manahi.
Yes, Doctor.
Muhammad. Muhammad.
Present.
Okay. Faye Nasir. Okay. Latifa Nasir. Okay. Bayan Saleh. Bayan Saleh. Okay. Kausar Khamis. Khamis. Sorry. Okay, I will call out the absentees. Wasan Husni. Wasan Husni. Wala Hassan. Wasan, okay. Okay, Wala Hassan. Wala Hassan. Okay. Mahmoud Ali. Mahmoud Ali. Okay. Anyone from section 1? Anyone from section 1? Balqis, I think I marked you. Anyone from section 1 here? Nobody? Okay. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Okay. Tomorrow we will have a class. Okay. Only the last Monday was off. We will now have classes on 4 days of the week. Okay. Keep it in mind. Okay. See you guys tomorrow, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.